Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network. For the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews, press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light.
From the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the schmoes know, this is DC Movie News, bringing you the most up-to-date discussion and commentary within the DC Universe.
Hello, DC movie fans! Welcome to DC Movie News, your Thanksgiving escape when your family is making you feel like you're trapped in the bottled city of Candor. I'm Adam Gertler.
Hey, I'm Jonny Loquasto. Guess what? We got 3 dudes today.
Ow!
Hooray!
That's right, because we had too much sexy with Roxy Striar, so you
that
decided...
hurts, man. I know we just met, but like that...
Actually, his hair is longer than Roxy's.
Yeah.
So,
that's the standard we go by.
That's
right?
what equates to sexy.
There's a crossover there. Roxy Striar is back home in Boston. She wanted me to say Starling City, but she's in Boston. It's very cold, but she misses everybody. We miss her. I'm Jonny Loquasto at JQuasto. Our special guest sitting in studio here. Now, this guy has an amazing show that airs immediately after Monday Night Raw on YouTube. It's called the Straight Shoot Podcast. But why is he here? He's not just a wrestling fan like I am. He also legitimately is in the comic book industry. This guy has worked on the original Walking Dead. You have edited for Marvel.
Kick-Ass, also.
Kick-Ass.
Oh, wow.
You even have created your own comics. You have a comic right now, kingmall.com.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about your life is
Yes.
crazy. Just tell us.
Is your biographer going to tell us about us?
Yeah,
or
man.
Get into it. Go.
No, it all started at this crossroads where I made a deal with the shadowy man.
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate. I've got to work these really cool jobs. I started at Marvel right out of college.
Doing what?
Well, I was an intern, right, in editorial originally while I was in college, and then I lucked out. Somebody left, and I was able to slide right in there once I graduated. And so I worked in Tom Brevoort's office, in the Marvel Heroes office. Worked on Civil War, House of M, Wolverine,
So
Captain
editing,
America.
you were actually editing. What does an editor do? Like, I understand, like, the editor-in-chief kind of oversees, like, where the storyline is going. But working as, like, a young editor, like, on a book, are you just like, we have, like, a 30-page script, we got to get down to 23 pages? How does that work?
Sometimes. That's been known to happen. Man, I usually tell people it's kind of 2 distinct jobs, right? Like, one is traffic cop, because everybody who works on a book is independent contractor, freelancer, and they work out of house. So you got a writer, a penciler, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, and sometimes you have multiple pencilers. Exactly, yeah. Too many cooks. Boo.
Too many cooks? Sorry.
Yeah, so you have at least 5 people working on each book, on each issue of these monthly books, and so you've got to just play traffic cop and make sure everything gets where it's going. But then once it comes in, you got to do quality control, make sure it's good once it gets there. So it's script notes, it's going over outlines and stuff with folks, but it's also looking at pencil layouts and inking and coloring notes, and then proofreading the lettering.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sitting in with us today. So this is our Thanksgiving episode.
Tell us, actually, I want to know, King Mall is your own comic you've created from start to finish, right?
Yeah, well, King Mall is my webcomic. It's at kingmall.com, right? And we put a new page up every week, myself and Zach Kinsella is the artist on it. And then I had a graphic novel come out earlier this year with the Roddenberry guys. So like Gene Roddenberry.
Oh, cool.
Star Trek, of course. You know, I did a graphic novel with those guys, and Chris Moreno was the artist on that. They came out back in April. It's called Worth.
And what's funny is, on a totally different genre, you and I we don't go head to head because, like, we're buddies.
We go totally head to head. It's brutal. Take no prisoners. Yeah, falls count anywhere.
Immediately after Monday Night Raw, I'm here at AfterBuzz hosting the Raw After Show, and then you have your own called Straight Shoot.
Yeah, it's and we have guests and everything, but it's not as fancy as this. So everybody's just in their home and they dial in and we chit chat about Raw and go over stuff. This past Sunday we had Shayna Baszler, remember the 4 Horsewomen, MMA legend and icon, Shayna Baszler. And this coming week I have NFL free agent Brennan Williams.
I know, a good buddy of mine.
He's rad.
Rehabbing from injury.
Super smart wrestling head. And Adam Cole, baby, from PWG and Ring of Honor. Very excited about it.
That's solid.
Very cool. None of what you're saying makes any sense to me.
You should just know you should be impressed.
I have no. Can I talk about DC stuff now?
Let's do it.
We have to.
All right, thank you.
Hey, we've had a lot of wrestling fans cross over to this show.
It's okay.
You know that.
That's great, man. I totally respect that.
There are 2 of us, all right?
I know, exactly. I feel a little outnumbered.
It's a handicap match, Gertler.
Where are you? So this is our Thanksgiving episode. We thought we would get into a little bit of news, but what I also wanted to do was talk a little bit about some of our favorite movies to watch around the holidays, to watch on Thanksgiving. For me, at least, you know, when you're sitting around the house waiting for the food, it's a great day to watch movies. So we get a little bit of...
though. You're cooking the food.
Well, you know,
so
about 10 or so years ago, I kind of took more of the cooking responsibilities.
Yeah. Okay.
So I haven't really been able to do it too much, but this is kind of like growing up as a kid. I love to take this time, like the holidays. Everybody's home, and you watch these like big epic movies. This is the time to watch like your Godfathers, your classic movies. You know, the movies that everybody really, really loves. So we're going to talk about that. But first, we do have some news, so let's get into the news real quick.
We do.
First up, we have an official announcement about Michelle McLaren. It's on. We have a director for the Wonder Woman movie. We talked about it. We don't have to get too into it right now because we really talked a lot about it a couple of weeks ago. But again, this is an executive producer of Breaking Bad. She worked on Walking Dead. She's worked on
X-Files.
On X-Files. She worked in the last couple of seasons of X-Files and Game of Thrones. So, Johnny, how do you feel about Michelle McLaren being selected to direct Wonder Woman?
I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It's like, granted, I mean, it's a risk anytime you bring someone on for, regardless who the director is, unless you're, you know, the major. She's not a major director, but she's phenomenal.
Well, she hasn't done a lot of films, but
Right.
what she has done with these shows, the reason I'm so excited about it is it's what makes a great comic book movie, in my opinion, is the character. You need well-developed characters, and on these shows, she's done so much character work.
Yeah.
I mean, all those shows are incredibly character-driven. You've worked on Walking Dead, so
I worked on Walking Dead, yeah, the comic.
I think Walking Dead is one of the most successful comic-to-screen translations ever done. I mean, and it seems to have fans of both the comic and the TV show, and they cross over and go both ways. And they have Robert Kirkman is actually involved.
He's deeply involved. You know, I think that's a big part of it, right? And even if it's not somebody who's necessarily involved with the comic, having someone who respects the material makes all the difference in the world.
So, what do you think about Michelle McLaren directing Wonder Woman?
Well, obviously she's got the resume to back it up. You know, who could argue with those shows that you just listed there? I'll tell you what I'm really excited about, and I'm really pleased about, because right now, sort of as a culture, there's a big push towards proper representation for three white guys talking about this. But,
yeah, exactly.
But for women and minorities, right? I think it's great.
Yes.
I think it's awesome that a woman, novel idea, is directing Wonder Woman. That's amazing.
I think it's a great idea too. When they first announced that Warner Brothers was looking for a woman, I was kind of against it. It seemed like a real gimmicky thing to do.
Yeah.
I thought, like, why not just find a great director? And
there have been those Nicholas Winding Refn rumors for a real long time too, right?
About Wonder Woman?
Yeah, man.
I couldn't see him doing a Wonder Woman.
well,
I couldn't see him playing the studio game.
That's the only thing that bums me out about this, is because I wanted to see what bonkers bananas stuff would come from a Nicholas Winding Refn Wonder Woman. But no, Michelle McLaren, she's fantastic.
I agree. How great it would have been when we almost had like the Darren Aronofsky Wolverine movie.
Right,
like,
exactly.
I never really believed that was going to happen, but like that would have been amazing.
You look at her resume, I mean, all the shows she's worked on, they're all gritty shows. Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, what's the other major one we met? Walking Dead. They're super gritty, they're dark. It's like you're watching a movie on your television to begin with, so she definitely is going to bring it to the table, and obviously she wouldn't have signed on if she wasn't super excited, ready to put everything into it. I think it's a fantastic decision. I think everyone should be happy about it.
To be devil's advocate for just a moment, if I could, one thing about when a director gets to mount a huge studio project for the first time, is there this fear that because they're not an auteur, because they're not like a Nolan or a James Cameron that gets to have their way, right? Is there the fear that they're going to kind of be like just pushed in a way that the studio wants them to go, and they really won't have a clear vision? I mean, that's
well, maybe, but you know, that's what you just described sounds exactly like Marvel's strategy, right? Marvel, and it's worked out pretty well, right?
I can't disagree.
People see those movies, you know, and they like them too. Like, beyond just seeing them, people love the hell out of those movies. And it's not to say that, you know, James Gunn didn't have a very specific voice with Guardians of the Galaxy,
He did.
But all of those movies are sort of those directors' hands are forced by Marvel to sort of toe the line.
And the actors too. I mean, we've heard the actors speak out too. It's like, look, I just stand there and like
stick to the script.
Yeah.
Like, essentially it's a phrase, but really you stick to the script.
But you know, Zack Snyder is going to be executive producing too, so it really does sound like Zack Snyder is going to kind of be godfathering these movies a little bit, which I'm very excited about, because I've spoken many times before about how I think his visual style is incredible. I love the visuals from 300, from Watchmen. I think that when people
I'm a big Sucker Punch fan. How about that? I'll go ahead and say it. I'll put it out there. I don't care.
Here's the
I don't care,
Punch
man.
fan.
I'll go there.
How excited are you to see a Batman fight directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, great. With with Bjork singing Led Zeppelin in the background, or like
I hope
whatever
so.
whatever the balls he does.
God.
Tori
for
Amos
Bjork.
smells like Teen Spirit.
Yeah, perfect.
Listen, kids, we want to talk about movies mostly on this show, but I have to take a sidebar to mention TV for a moment. A lot of you are big DC TV fans. DC kicks ass in all different networks on TV. We got the CW, we got NBC, we got Fox. We're going to have TNT coming up. So Constantine on NBC. I started watching this show. It's grown on me week after week. I'm not a fan of like procedural shows where it's like a different villain every week, and it's, but Constantine is really good. Like the dude, Matt Ryan, is fantastic. He looks like Constantine. The Papa Midnight episode was great. And I guess what's happened is NBC hasn't canceled the show, but they went to a 13-episode order for the full season. Now, personally, I don't think that a show like that should have more than 13 episodes in the season. I think you get better storytelling. But that's not really what's going on here. I think the show is in trouble. So I just wanted
NBC, let's not forget, they love canceling everything.
They do. Yeah, when you put it on Friday nights, it's a really tough slot.
They've been known to cancel shows after one episode of doing awfully to start.
Now,
so
I don't know, Johnny, have you actually had a chance to watch any of Constantine yet?
I haven't seen Constantine yet because I literally only have enough hours. I don't have enough hours in the day to begin with.
You are the reason it's being canceled.
There's a lot of wrestling on TV each week.
Yeah,
I know. There's so much.
No, but here's the thing, though. One thing that is kind of cool about Constantine, I know one of the upcoming episodes, the Justice League Dark, is going to be introduced into the show, which obviously is going to be our next topic.
Or at least parts of it.
I think that's pretty awesome, though.
Well, we know that there's rumors that like Zatanna will be introduced in there. They mentioned that they weren't going to get involved in like Swamp Thing and things like that until they were sure they could do it well.
Yep.
And also the show has to be really popular. So if you want to save Constantine, you can go to ipetitions.com/petition/save-Constantine or use the Twitter handle #SaveConstantine.
And you'd be surprised that kind of social media push has worked for shows before.
I signed up for the online petition. I know that there was like 1,000-something signatures early in the day. By the time I signed up, there was over 3,000 signatures. They're looking for 100,000 signatures. So everybody who's watching this podcast right now, please tweet that with the hashtag. Get people to save the petition and let the networks know. I mean, not every family can be a Nielsen family, but this is a good show. Let a show like this develop. Otherwise, we're not going to have great, interesting shows like this.
And I think part of the problem is, when you're on a major network like NBC, the expectations are so much higher, where when you're on the CW, they know their ratings are going to be high. When you're on TBS, when you're on TNT, when you're on USA, you notice those shows last a lot longer.
I know, but the problem with those CW shows is they always go into like that soap opera mode.
I get it.
And it's like, I love it. I like Flash. I like Green Arrow, but like, even on like Arrow, it's like everybody's showing up this week with a quiver and arrows. Like, what? Like, the dude spent 5 years on an island to become a master, and now you can just go take a weekend course and come back with a quiver and a black leather costume?
I totally get it, but don't rule out, let's say Constantine gets canceled by NBC, don't rule out some other network picking it up.
It could happen, Netflix and all that.
TNT is a perfect fit for it.
But now you mentioned our next subject, so I'm sorry, did you want to say anything about Constantine?
No, I haven't seen too much wrestling to watch, man.
Okay, I know,
I'm part of the problem.
I'm behind on Gotham,
too. So can the WWE pick up Constantine? I don't know how that works. Would he then just have to wrestle
They've got their own
weekly?
network now, yeah.
Well, if they're looking for it.
Speaking of Justice League Dark, this next bit of news is something we kind of mentioned briefly. It's very exciting. I mean, I think it's exciting. This guy likes to talk. Guillermo del Toro has mentioned that a script for Justice League Dark has been submitted to WB. And like you can see, the team of Justice League Dark are those dark heroes. You have people like the aforementioned John Constantine, like the Demon, Etrigan, like Deadman, like Spectre, like Zatanna, and of course my favorite, beautiful green creature from the swamp.
I just want to pluck a fruit off of him.
Aubrey, what do you think of the possibility of a big screen Justice League Dark film with these characters?
Oh man, I'm so into it. One of the things that the great thing about the DC universe and the mystical characters there is this is just scratching the surface, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got Blue Demon, you've got connection to Shazam, right? Like there's so many depths to mine when it comes to mystical and magical and occult heroes. Clarion Witchboy, that's one of my favorites, right? There's so much
deep cuts.
Yeah, man. Yeah, listen, I'll bring it. But no, I'm super stoked, and I think Guillermo del Toro is the perfect guy for it. I loved the Hellboy movies.
Yes,
the stuff I loved most about the Hellboy movies.
Worked on The Hobbit as well. He co-wrote it.
Yeah, man.
Well, he was originally supposed to direct The Hobbit, and then until they took forever, and then Peter Jackson was like, "I got this.
I'll handle it."
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth is incredible. I'm a huge fan of Pacific Rim. I know the script isn't great, but I think it was very specific in a certain style, and it had the best, giant robots versus monsters on screen.
And what he's good at is
that you've ever
he's
seen.
good at world building, and even more importantly than that, mythology building, right? Like if you watch those Hellboy movies, like the most compelling parts of those films to me are when you have this ancient tree monster, right? And it's the last of its kind, and it's really just one scene, but it has so much emotional depth and weight.
You're
to
right.
it.
It does create a whole world in those Hellboy movies, and that's part of why comic book movies can be so great. I always say that there's a lot of mythology to mine from, or even if you're not mentioning every piece where it came from, the fact that it's got a dense mythology, it just gives a depth to the work, to the material. Like that this tree monster has a lot of history to it. The other thing that Guillermo del Toro likes to do, though, is attach himself to many, many, many projects. So you don't know what is actually going to happen.
Oh, yeah, they want me. Yeah, we signed on.
Hopefully after Pacific Rim 2, I would love to see a Justice League Dark. But we got to save Constantine first to make sure the studio knows there's an interest to see him back on the big screen.
Here's the question, though. DC has already announced their entire slate going up until 2020. So is this something that would be on the plate after that? Or is this something they would just plug in? Because he said the script has been turned into Warner Brothers.
Not necessarily, because there's also been mention that we would see the sequels to both Superman and Batman before 2020. So I think, Warner Brothers, because it's a little bit of a bigger studio than Marvel. Marvel Studios is it's like a boutique studio run by Kevin Feige under Disney's umbrella. Warner Brothers is Warner Brothers first and DC second. So if they wanted to find a way, they would make it done. But I think that this would be in a separate universe. Anyway, I say let Guillermo take the reins on this. I really, 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 really hope it happens. Like I said, the next time I see Swamp Thing, I want it to be on the big screen. I don't want to see it on a TV show. I want to see a big budget.
They make it look good as opposed to just
exactly. Because I'll often say I'm a big fan. Now this is kind of getting into our next subject, which is like some of our favorite movies to watch. Like I love that Wes Craven Swamp Thing movie.
Oh wow!
But you go back and you look at the outfit, man. It is pretty sorry.
It's a little rough.
Yeah. It's rough, but I remember like this great sword fight at the end. It's really dark. It's really swampy. It is.
Yeah.
As it should
That's
be.
good. That's good for a Swamp Thing movie.
Yeah.
But, now that's, so we'd like to talk about some of our favorite DC movies of all time. Could be recent ones, could be ones you like to watch at the holidays. What do you got, man? What do you, is you checking anything out recently or all time you want to?
For me, it's not even about favorite. You're just like, which one we don't want to watch over the holidays? And for me, I'm a huge fan of animated films because I do a lot of voiceovers, and one of my goals is to be like a regular on these types of projects. So I watched Assault on Arkham. I just think it's a really enjoyable.
So what did you think? I asked you to check this out. We talked about it. I told everybody to check it out.
Well, it's great because we talk so much about Suicide Squad on the show, and who might be chosen for the movie. Well, Assault on Arkham is pretty cool because there's characters in this film that I don't think have a shot in hell of being in the Suicide Squad movie. That doesn't mean I don't love it, though. I mean,
his vibe in it.
King Shark is in it.
King Shark. I love King Shark.
There we go. There's the picture. We got
That's
King
amazing.
Shark, we got Black Spider, Killer Frost, Captain Boomerang, KG Beast. He dies in the first 30 seconds.
KG Beast, the first time
Spoiler
I
alert.
encountered KG Beast was on, I believe, the Super Nintendo version of Batman. It was like there was an early version. Like people know this. I only get a video game system every time like a new Batman game comes out. Like it was like Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I think I had N64. Although I don't know if there was a Batman game on there. But I remember KG Beast.
Yeah.
And he gets. Oh, did you just spoil what happens to KG Beast?
I mean,
No, don't worry. Just keep going. It's fine.
Anyway, so
Russians never die. He's fine.
So you get to see an idea of what a Suicide Squad could look like on the screen.
A little bit. I mean, there's a couple. I would think obviously.
Killer Frost.
Yeah, I think she would be amazing. Obviously,
Mucho sexy.
Deadshot's a definite. But it's a fun story. It involves the Joker, the Riddler. You have a Two-Face cameo. I mean, a lot of people end up showing up, and it's gritty too for an animated film. There's a sex scene. There's some cuss words.
What about speaking of that sex scene? I think I pulled a picture. This is one of my favorite. Harley Quinn seduces Floyd Law in Deadshot in this most incredible scene where she shows up in his room and she's like, "Hey, you want to get it on?"
Yeah.
And then he's like, "No," and then he's like, "Okay, whatever."
There's no seduction there.
When
It's
do you
just,
see that in an animated film?
there's no seduction. It's just a naked Harley Quinn going.
Is it based on a comic?
I don't think so.
Is it totally original?
No, actually, the idea from Assault on Arkham comes from like the Arkham games.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
But it also has very much a New 52 style. And this is another thing I want to bring up because people talk about how there's strong rumors of the Joker being in Suicide Squad. And based on what Torell was saying last week on how like the presence of the Joker would really help sell this movie. Here we see him how he's in this kind of like Hannibal Lecter-y, like, isolated prison situation. He's like all on his own, and he's just like this looming presence in the film, and he actually does a big part. That's what I would like to see play out with the Joker in his Suicide Squad.
Speaking of which, Jared Leto was asked about the Joker rumors. He completely danced around it. He goes, there's this other movie called Fight Club, and the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
So that's not a denial.
It's not a denial. And then he danced around talking about how proud he was of his Oscars this year. Obviously Dallas Buyers Club.
Yes.
And there's another major.
Which, if you haven't seen Jared Leto in Dallas Buyers Club and you're not sure if the 30 Seconds to Mars guy can be the Joker,
he's adorable.
Check it out. He's quite adorable.
talented
It's a
dude.
great film.
He
too.
completely danced around it, which was phenomenal. But it's a really enjoyable film. It's only an hour and 15 minutes. Not going to take up your whole day. Amanda Waller is a beast in that movie.
Is it
I know
fat
you're
Amanda
a
Waller
Waller
or
fan.
skinny? Yeah.
Fat.
It's like-
gotta be fat Amanda
He's
Waller.
all about that bass with his Amanda Waller. You definitely don't want no twiggy Amanda Waller.
She could fight crime herself.
Good.
She's so big in that movie. and the voiceover actors, the actors in it were incredible. You could even make a case that Harley Quinn was kind of the star of the
You
film.
get Kevin Conroy voicing Batman again, which every time someone voices Batman other than Kevin Conroy, I'm like, oh, good job. But he is the
nails it.
quintessential Batman. He gets the tone. He gets the tone of Bruce Wayne and the Dark Knight, and it just doesn't sound forced. He's not going over too far like that. He just kind of goes like
Who
this.
does that?
Oh, I don't know. Some people say that. Other people do that. But look, I mean, Kevin Conroy is the man, and I'm so excited about that film. I think it's a great film.
And Harley Quinn's voice was very unique, and I dug that. And,
If it's anywhere near as good as your Harley Quinn voice, I'm sold.
yeah.
it's actually
there it is.
pretty
That's
close
it.
to it.
Yeah.
Sure,
Harley
I
Quinn's
love it.
basically a Jewish mom. In the film.
Yeah. She's from Long Island. What about you? Do you have a favorite film that you want to talk about? A classic
I do, man.
DC film?
I absolutely do. Yeah, it catches a lot of shade from people.
Okay.
Right? Because it came after the Burton Batmans, but Batman Forever, it's my favorite of the Batman movies.
Wow.
Let me back up. It's not my. I don't think it's the best one, but it's the one that I find most watchable. Those Nolan ones exhaust me.
Most watchable.
I
You're saying
love them.
all Batman films.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
most
yeah.
funny.
This is the one. This is the one that, like, if I see this one on TBS or whatever, I stop and I stop what I'm doing and I watch it. The
Is
Nolan
my
ones-
face
Nolan ones
registering shock right
yeah,
now?
man, I see it. But here's the thing: the Nolan ones are phenomenal. They're great films. They wear me out. They're exhausting. I don't want to deal with man's depravity and descent into chaos on Thanksgiving.
It's funny because
I
when
want
you-
brightly colored Joel Schumacher. Bananas Batman.
It was
That's
more
what I
family
want.
friendly. It's funny when you said you were going to talk Batman Forever. I thought it would be to kind of joke around and make fun of it.
No, I love it.
Good for you.
So
I
Jim
absolutely love
Carrey is the Riddler.
Yep, ridiculous. Terrible casting. Tommy Lee Jones, even worse casting.
Yeah.
And I believe his name in the film is Harvey Two-Face. They don't even go into the whole Harvey
Why bother?
Dent thing, lawyer.
We don't need it.
They just
Let's-
call him Harvey Two-Face.
Let's skip right to the good parts. No, that's kind of
And
what
he
I
has
liked
these
about
custom suits made. Really?
It's great.
What tailor is making those suits?
It's beautiful. And here's the other thing, though, and this is not ironic. I think Val Kilmer is probably my favorite Bruce Wayne and Batman. Oh my
Okay, now here's the thing. I will defend
Adam
Val
West,
Kilmer.
Adam West gets a pass, but he does a very, very different thing.
Right, but the thing is, I think that Val Kilmer, I even think George Clooney could have been good Batman and Bruce Wayne. I just, for me, the world that they created, I don't know why at some point Warner Brothers was like, yeah, we were on this path, we did these two Burton films, now let's just...
Well, you know
let's
why?
totally change the tone, but
The second one
but keep
didn't do
some
as well.
actors in common, like keep the actor playing Alfred, keep the guy playing
they were-
Commissioner Gordon.
Well,
so it's sort of the same
originally they
world.
wanted Keaton, and Keaton dropped out once he saw the direction that the film was
They were
going.
getting a lot of complaints from parents that the other films were too dark, and so they wanted to go more family friendly. And obviously, part of that is in fear of financial. They want to make sure they make enough money. And this one made $336 million, which actually was a financial success.
It made
And I
more
didn't-
than Batman Returns.
I
that's
didn't
for
like
sure.
this either. Just
Oh
for
yeah.
the record.
How about the first time we got Robin on screen?
Didn't like it.
Yeah.
Did not like it. But
That's why that
but
was like 20 years ago.
I'll tell you the things that I loved. I loved the cinematography. I liked all of the Dutch angles. I liked all of the crazy bright colors, all the day glow stuff. I liked the fact that it was kind of campy.
The
Because
Dutch
like you-
angles meaning like the tilted cameras
Yeah,
and
the
the kind of,
tilted
so kind of
angles.
like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you got from the Adam West.
Exactly, and
series.
that's why I liked it, because it felt like a spiritual successor to those Adam West movies that I grew up loving.
What didn't you like about Jim Carrey? Because to me, in 1995, there was no one hotter. You know, Ace Ventura blew up, The Mask blew up. It seemed like that was the perfect casting.
Smart casting. He just never felt like the Riddler to me. He felt like a guy that they wish they could have had him just to be the Joker.
It just seems like
and that's how he played the Riddler.
What they decided to do with those films is just throw out any sort of world building or character building and just give you, like you said, big splashy color
For kids.
And that's okay
For
sometimes.
kids.
Yeah, I mean, and like
it's okay sometimes.
also that soundtrack.
just not when Batman's involved.
You gonna tell me you don't like listening to "Kisses from a Rose" to
wow.
this very day?
I'm gonna
Are
tell you
gonna
right
tell
here
me?
in front of everybody. I don't want to hear that song.
In front of God and country, you're gonna say you
front of
don't
everybody, I'm
love
gonna
"Kiss
say
from a Rose"?
it doesn't.
What about
doesn't
"Hold
bring
Me,
me
Thrill
back.
Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me"?
I'd much rather listen to the Prince soundtrack from the 1989 Batman film.
I don't believe that.
Oh yeah,
I think that's the thing people say, but I don't think they mean it.
Batman, Vicky Bale, Bruce Wayne. I like Batman.
No, we got it.
Okay.
We got it.
So, okay, now, what was your first exposure to DC Comics or characters, or, you know, was it the 66 series?
Yeah,
or
no, my mom watched the Adam West Batman stuff as a kid, and she loved it. And so when we would go to the video store, and, you know, I didn't know what I wanted to watch, or my mom would say, "This, you want to watch the Batman movie? This is what you want." And she was right. She was absolutely right.
Coincidentally, I think for me that's what it was too. I think the first time I really remember being exposed to Batman or any of that was in reruns of the Adam West show
Every day.
And it's such a different Batman that I later came to love when I started reading comics, but I still loved it.
Batman's one of these characters, right? I think there aren't a whole lot of them. Batman's one. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are one, right? In which you can approach it in any way you want.
What do you guys think out there? Tell me,
campy.
is Batman Forever redeemable? Is the statute of limitations up? Or are we deciding as a society, as DC movie fans, to give Joel Schumacher a pass at this point?
Well,
Let me know.
Look, I mean, one of the benefits of having this show is to have different viewpoints. We could all get up here and say, "Oh, The Dark Knight's awesome." Everyone knows that.
I like those too, you know?
But I love the fact that he went this route because it's fun to talk about, and there are good points to it as well. And going
absolutely.
Back to
As a kid, it struck me where I lived way more than either of the Burton movies ever did. I thought those were dry. I thought Michael Keaton looked like a geek.
It also probably has to do with a little bit of age. I'm probably a little bit older than you, so I was like around 12 when the Batman movie came out in 1989.
Yeah.
And I remember like going to the comic book store and getting tickets to go see what I thought was like a preview. It turned out it was like the Saturday after it opened, and we were just like renting seats in a theater. But I, for some reason, thought like I was going to this like advanced screening. I went to the comic book store. I got like 15 friends together. I think like Ghostbusters 2 came out like right around the same time. And it was just amazing. Like the Danny Elfman soundtrack from that original Dark Knight film. I mean, even when I started driving 5 years later, I would listen to the Elfman soundtrack.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And
what the heck are we? Oh, for
Yeah. It's winning me over.
Jack, you said you can help me improve the paintings. Woo! A little breakdown with Prince.
I was dreaming when I wrote this. Oh, sorry, wrong Prince song.
no,
Sorry about
Prince.
that. You know, '89 was an amazing year for movies. You had Batman.
Was Dick Tracy that year?
I think
90.
it was
90.
Oh, was it 90?
You had Ghostbusters 2. You had Weird Al's UHF, my favorite film of all time, and you had one of the Indiana Jones movies that opened the same week. That's a
Which I loved. Last Crusade is great.
Yeah.
And
Anyways.
the UHF film, you know, it's important to mention. I always think about taking a hot dog and splitting the Twinkie and putting the cheese whiz on top, which I've never
Twinkie
done.
wiener sandwich, my
but
favorite.
It really sounds good. Hey, Jatorel, did you have a favorite film that you might like to watch, like on Thanksgiving, or what's your classic go-to DC all-time great film?
This is a pretty easy one for me. I grew up loving the Richard Donner Superman.
Yes!
cool.
You will believe a man could fly. This was the progenitor of everything that we love today. This was the first film. 1978, I believe it was. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Marlon
I love
Brando. Marlon Brando, when he got cast in the role, he was like, he was famously quoted as saying, like, I don't understand. If he's an alien, why does he look like a human? Why can't he look like a briefcase and speak in clicks and beeps? Which is so amazing to think that they got like one of the greatest all-time actors. And like I told you, we used to have that little sound clip to start the show, and he's like,
of Solitude.
in this fortress of solitude.
He was well into the effort stage of his career by that point.
Yeah. But at the time, he got like $1 million for like
course
a
he
week's
did.
worth of work. It was like the highest paid ever. But what about this guy as Superman? What do you think of Christopher Reeve as Superman?
Well, what everyone thinks. I mean, he's the best ever.
The best ever. I mean, like it's a different approach to the character. A lot of people, you know, people that grow up today, a little bit of younger generation, I think this is the cultural divide. People in their like mid to late 30s, early 40s are like, no, That Man of Steel nonsense does not fly with me because people were so attached to this style of Superman, which was really different.
And Aubrey can attest to this being wrestling, in the wrestling as well. People are very, very nostalgic. And, you know, the
golden age of anything is 12.
Yeah, we only want to remember the amazing stuff of back in the day. There's a lot of... But I do think Christopher Reeve, as far as the Superman character, he's never had a lot of personality. I think Christopher Reeve is the way to go. I mean...
I don't think those movies hold up terribly well.
They, you know, unfortunately,
but Christopher Reeve
does. The first one does.
Man, I don't know.
Listen, tell me, what is your favorite part?
You're controlling the sound and everything, so I don't want to make you mad.
What is your favorite part about that first one?
I love how it's like a 3-act. The first half an hour is a straight up sci-fi movie where the planet's being destroyed. Then you have like almost John Ford scene where he's with his parents. He's out, you know, in Smallville. Then the last act is you're in New York, and you really see him become Superman.
Yeah, and isn't the actor that plays his dad, isn't it John Ford? Is that the actor that played his father?
Oh, I don't remember.
All right, well, look,
kill me that.
I've told you that scene right there when he like comes home and when he's with his dad, that scene makes me cry. Wow. And the way the father dies in the original Superman, I love. Because, you know, again, it's been said before, this is something that Superman with all his powers could not prevent. Right. His dad has a heart attack, as opposed to what they did in Man of Steel, which is my least favorite part of Man of Steel.
It would have been kind of inconvenient for him to go save his dad, you know?
Yeah.
I know!
I'm just gonna twirl around this,
but the thing is, it wasn't even like his dad was saving children, it was a dog, and I know people love their pets and dogs and stuff, but come on! He's gotta kill himself.
Can I say one more thing
yes.
about Christopher Reeve's performance?
Yeah.
He made me believe that him and Clark Kent were two different people. When Christopher Reeve was Clark Kent, he sold at Clark Kent. Whereas when he's Superman, he was Superman. I really saw two different people. I don't think anyone's done that since.
He took the goofy approach to it. He really made that, you know, up till then, like, Clark Kent was not portrayed as such a bungling, you know, physically comedic sort of
The only thing that I can
role.
think is, and it all similar to the way that he was able to establish these two separate personalities. No, Val Kilmer in Batman Forever.
See, I thought Christian Bale was amazing as. To me, I saw Christian Bale as two different people: Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Really?
Yeah,
I really did.
Well, he definitely had the voice for it.
See?
Now, JTE, what do you think about this? This is the part where the original Superman goes off the rails for me, and I love the film. The end, all right? You have Superman who has all these powers, right? The super speed, the flying, the X-ray vision, the heat vision, bullets bounce off the guy. Why do you then have to have the nuclear missile strike, and then he flies around the planet to go back in time, which is just like, what?
First of all, the film was taken out of Richard Donner's hands, and that was supposed to be the ending to Superman 2.
Okay, yes, okay.
And they basically fired him right towards the end, and they had Richard Lester take over part 2. Listen, I don't love the flying behind the planet, but I do love the scene where Brando shows up, and he's like, he's going against his father's wishes.
I do like the flying around the planet because it is...
It is forbidden. It is forbidden. And he's going really fast. You know? He's like, I gotta push it harder. It's
cool.
Awesome.
I think it's great. It's gonzo and ridiculous in the same way all of those old Silver Age DC comics are.
I heard that Donner was kicked off the second one. I didn't realize that he was already fired at that point because I know that they were trying to shoot both those films at once.
They shot most of part... I think Donner shot about 70 to 80% part 2.
Yeah.
He was still working towards the end of part 1 and on part 2, and him and the producers just didn't see eye to eye.
Also, how amazing is it after he spends like a couple of years in the Fortress of Solitude with the disembodied voice of Marlon Brando, and then it's that far shot.
Yeah.
And he just flies at the screen. Oh my God, if that doesn't get you excited.
The scene where he pulls Lois out of the car and she's like basically dead. The emotion that he goes through and just screams right up into the sky.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that he was going to turn the Earth around after that point.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess that's the problem I have with it, because like you were saying, like, it doesn't hold up, but like, it does. I mean, that part when he starts crying and he just...
There are phenomenal moments in it, yeah.
That is a great one to watch on Thanksgiving Day.
It's a great funny
so
film,
old school.
too. It's very funny.
Yeah.
The scene, I mean, Gene Hackman...
Johnny, do you have a history with the original Superman? Did you watch it as a kid, or was that...
It was way before. I mean, actually, it was before I was born. So I remember watching it a little bit as a kid. I obviously don't have the history that you two have with it, though. So,
but okay, so compared to like the modern take on Superman, you're okay with like the Henry Cavill approach to it. You think that that's like a good progression for the character.
I don't want to write it off. I mean, we got to see what happens with Batman versus Superman.
Exactly.
Don't forget, Man of Steel's like before he's Superman. It really is Superman Begins. I'm hoping he gets to where Reeves is at as far as the way the character is.
I just want to go on record as saying I love Cavill. I think he looks the part. I think he's a great actor.
I thought Brandon Brandon Routh looked the part. I didn't think
sounds like him.
Yeah.
He sounds like Christopher Reeve. That's creepy. Even like when he's playing the Atom on Arrow.
Brandon Routh wasn't the problem with that movie.
No,
right?
no, absolutely.
I thought he was great.
And I never think it is. I don't think that Ryan Reynolds was the problem with Green Lantern either. And I think most people think that. It's the script. It's the director, but most importantly, it's what the studio, the people that have the money, want to go with it. Because as you saw, like I think Joel Schumacher is a capable director. Sure. You liked what he did, but it's like you and 5 people. Like most people, like he really did kill the Batman franchise, or Warner Brothers.
Except for they made another one right afterwards that also made a balls load of money.
Yeah.
He killed it that badly.
There was
right?
one nail, and they gave him another one. He's like, hey, since you already started, take the other nail and just put Batman in the coffin for like 10 years.
Batman Robin's unforgivable and indefensible.
One thing I will
Batman
say
Forever, I will.
about Man of Steel is it's different than all these older Superman films, and I think they had to do that because what Bryan Singer did, he basically remade the first Superman movie.
Which sounded good on paper.
On paper, yeah. I was
But
when
it was
I
a
saw
terrible
that trailer,
choice.
When I saw the trailer for the Brandon Routh film, I was going crazy.
Kevin
didn't work.
Spacey should have been the best Lex Luthor ever. It was so boring.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the first film. There's a helicopter crash. In the Routh version, there's a plane crash. He's trying to make land. He's trying to split up land.
Land, Mr. Luthor.
And the new one,
it's just
he's
a little
making
place.
land.
It's called Otisburg. It's just a little bitty place.
Too many beats. And let me say something. I hated the Superboy in Brandon Routh.
God.
When they revealed the kid was like a super kid, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it was so weird.
People forget about that, but that was
and then
horrible.
Kumar showed up, and he was just like a henchman. It was like, you're Kumar. What do you?
Forgot about that.
Well, while we're on the topic of negativity, I guess
Happy Thanksgiving.
let's get to our Twitter questions. And the first
Oh
Twitter
wait, I
question
wanted to
is-
mention a movie. I wanted to mention my movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
I'm sorry. My movie that I'm going to be watching on Thanksgiving is The Dark Knight.
Well, of course.
As we said. Now, I think this is the greatest comic book movie of all time. I even put it a little bit ahead of Avengers. And let me tell you why. It's an epic. And like, what is an epic? An epic to me is a movie that travels to many different places, that looks huge on the screen. Obviously, the IMAX cameras were used in this, but you also have the Joker performance, which, I mean, the Academy Award-winning performance, to make a character legitimately terrifying, as they did. That opening scene with the bank heist, I mean, boom.
The pencil on the counter.
Well, my disappearing pencils are like this scene right here, which I just love when the guy is just...
Don't forget the why
First of all, he's in the back seat. Who's driving that thing? He's driving from the back seat, and he's just, while all this chaos is going on, he just sticks his head out the window, and he realized, like, no, this guy, like kind of like Alfred says in the film, some men just want to see this city burn. And that's what he does. Like, he is just caught up in what he's doing, and it really feels like there's a real threat. I think Nolan peaks with this film. Also,
Don't forget the why so serious scene.
Oh
The
God!
police station.
And every time he talks about his origin, and he's always giving himself a different backstory.
It's amazing. It's a really smart bit of business, and he's tremendous in it. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, and he looks cool. He's sexy. He's terrifying. What about Gordon? Commissioner Gordon, as Gary Oldman portrays in this
I loved all
film?
the Aaron Eckhart stuff. In
Yeah.
the second movie too. Yeah.
Yeah,
great.
I mean, people forget about Aaron Eckhart because Heath Ledger kind of overpowers it, but.
That's a great arc, man.
It's really great.
That's the great thing about. Well, there are a lot of great things about it, but one of the things I really love about the movie is that everybody has an arc, right? Like everybody has their path and their story that's being told.
It makes it, when that movie ends, you're like, oh, I gotta wait for the.
And it was such a long wait. And another thing I love about that is the specificity that Nolan had with the first two films, and by that I mean, like, we see how he becomes Batman. Like, all right, we're introduced to these techniques so we can see how the guy can actually do this thing. And when he has to do that thing, like where he extradites that criminal from China, the way that he does that, how he has to like hire a yacht and then take the whole Russian ballerinas on the boat so he can go away as Bruce Wayne, just to give Bruce Wayne a reason to be out of the country so he can go and extradite this guy. I mean, like, the specifics of that, and the sonar thing with Morgan Freeman. I mean, like, it goes on for days. This is a movie, like, I understand you said you tire of it. This is a movie like when it's on, I'm all in. It's like at 2.5 hours, so happily spent. I'm sorry that we're moving on to a different Batman, but I mean, Dark Knight Rises goes down a lot for me, unfortunately, after The Dark Knight. I don't want to get too negative, but I don't love it nearly as much as I love the first two.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of our Twitter questions coming from...
Excellent segue, Loquasto.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Straight Snuggle, at Straight Snuggle with an 8. What is the worst DC comic book movie in our opinions?
Ooh,
Can I go first?
Yeah,
yeah.
please.
I'm ready for it. Catwoman.
Yeah,
it's got to be Catwoman.
God.
I got a free ticket to go see Catwoman because I bought one of the Batman animated series box sets, right? And I got a free ticket, and I convinced a friend of mine. Oh man, you guys
How
had it
could
ready.
that movie be bad?
I mean, and I convinced him to go with me. He was furious at me for months. It is a dreadful, like, and it's not even laughably bad.
No,
it's just painful to sit through.
Well, it won the Razzie for everything in 2004.
Rightfully so, well earned.
$100 million budget. A director named Pitoff, who has never directed a film since.
Wow.
Halle Berry was hot as anything. She
Sure.
she had won the Academy Award at this point.
Yeah, this is post Monsters Ball and all
Post
that. yeah.
Monsters Ball. She's hot as anything.
Sharon
And for
Stone
some
was in it,
reason, Sharon
right?
Stone was in it. You know, for some reason they thought, like, okay, we have the character Catwoman, but let's take everything about that character and throw it out the window except for the name, Selena Kyle. Like, she's got these mystical cat-inspired powers.
It's truly
yeah.
atrocious.
I mean,
truly
yeah,
atrocious.
it
The scene
really
where
is.
she starts like licking her hand or something at one point.
The only part of that movie I liked was it was towards the end, and her and Sharon Stone started just taking turns beating each other with pipes. Because I had been wanting to do that the entire film.
Yeah.
I've been wanting someone to beat them to death with a pipe.
The best part about Catwoman is the fact that Halle Berry actually showed up at the Razzies to accept her award and brought her manager on stage and said, you know, I appreciate the fact that you care so much about me, even when the scripts are shit. You still want to pay me. You just look at the zeros in the check. That's all that matters. Like, she's made fun
wow.
of it. It was great.
Can we all agree Michelle Pfeiffer is the best?
Sure.
Oh my God, I loved Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
She was great.
She's great.
Oh, so good. And I love that outfit. I love the approach. She
God.
was so beautiful.
What's your worst? Do you have one?
Oh, yeah. My worst film, you know, I could have said Catwoman easily.
Yeah.
Worst film. Oh, God. You know, I hate to go back to it, but I'm going to have to say Superman 4.
Yep, that's it right
with
there.
Nuclear Man. So you get Gene Hackman back to the series after the debacle that is Superman 3, but I actually have some redeeming things that I like about Superman 3, like the bad kryptonite, like in the fight in the
Superman
dumpster.
3 Richard Pryor also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a soft spot
Those
for
are
that
like
movie.
it was like two different movies though,
Yes.
right? Because they weren't even on set together.
This budget was only $17 million because, like, I guess they didn't want to put a lot behind it, and apparently they ran out of money at some point
Put
during
out
the
by
filming.
Canon, right? Like, it's not even like Warner Brothers.
It was a
think.
mess. They ran out of
Someone
money
else-
at some point, and that's why none of it made any sense, and they kind of rushed to
Yeah,
finish
you
it.
had Gene Hackman back in the film. You had this idea that he would go against Nuclear Man, and as a kid, I liked the Nuclear
I
Man
loved
fights.
Nuclear Man as a kid.
Destroy Superman.
Dude, I thought Superman 4 was the business when I was a kid.
I
It was
know,
my
me
favorite
too.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, what's better than Superman fighting a man who's just, like, Sun Man?
And when his nails grow like that,
it's
and they show-
amazing.
And do you realize that character was voiced by Gene Hackman because he was using like
Oh, really?
a strand? Yeah, how they cloned Superman by clipping a strand of his hair that they have like in the Smithsonian Museum, where they have like a 10-ton steel ball that's being suspended by a single strand of Superman's hair, and then like one of Lex Luthor's henchmen goes in there, steals a strand of hair. They use that and a little bit of Lex Luthor's DNA, and it comes out as this blonde guy called Nuclear Man. The premise of the film is that Superman, based on some letters from kids, he wants to end nuclear war on the planet Earth. So he gathers all the nuclear missiles in a giant net. He swings them around and then hurls them off into space, and then they explode, and he gets knocked back to Earth. But during that explosion, Nuclear Man is born.
He looks like Psycho Sid, too, right?
It really does.
Yeah, that makes me like. That's another
Where
thing I
is
like about
the
it.
woman? What about you, Loquasto?
favorite
What's your
line.
least favorite DC film?
Those were the two. I had Catwoman and Superman 4.
Those are pretty bottom of the
So-
barrel.
That's why I wanted to go first.
What are some of your favorite, worst DC films? And you can tell me if they're just so bad they're not watchable, like Catwoman, or if they're so bad they're still kind of fun to watch, like how I kind of feel about Superman 4. Like, I'll still watch part of it. Oh, and then he gets sick, too.
Laughable. It's very laughable.
Laughable, man.
Moving on, this is a question from, I don't even see who it's from, but whatever. If you could have one Marvel character come to DC Comics, and then, of course, one major DC character go to Marvel, what would you do? Basically, if you could choose a couple people to make a
Okay.
switcheroo, what would we go with?
So the premise here of this
Lot of
question
options.
is that you're taking a character from Marvel, bringing him to DC.
You're trading.
But you got to trade.
You're doing a trade.
Okay, it could be anyone.
Yeah,
Par for par. Okay.
anyone. And that you think would be a good fit for maybe one of the movies coming out in the slate or something like that.
Here's what I'm doing.
Okay.
My DC team, we are drafting in the first round of this
It's a draft.
2014 draft.
Do it.
It is our proud honor to welcome Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk, to DC. Thank
Yes.
you, Bruce,
Great
come on
choice.
over. And in exchange, we are so sorry to see you go, but you're taking the Flash. The Flash is walking. The Flash is running all the way to DC, all the way to Marvel.
I dig
Look, it's not that I don't like Flash. That was not the question. I love the Flash, but I have to make a trade.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be honest about it, it has to be an equitable trade, right? I can't get the Hulk and then, give you Dove. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to make it on par.
That seems
so, Hulk for Flash. I'm sorry. That includes Wally West. That includes Jay Garrick.
Wait, not Impulse.
Barry Allen. Yes, even Impulse. All right, maybe you could have Impulse.
Let's
All
keep
right.
Impulse. Let's keep
Okay,
Impulse.
we'll keep Impulse.
And
All right.
Hulk can totally. I mean, both those they could fit into both groups very well. I think.
Hulk is he's such a badass character. I used to have a subscription to Hulk when Peter David was writing it in the 90s, and I've always loved the Hulk.
The neat thing about that idea too is that DC and Marvel universes have been going on for so long that they both have a lot of analogs of each other's characters.
Absolutely.
There's no Hulk in DC. When
Not
you said
really.
that, I realized that there really isn't a Hulk type character at DC.
And wouldn't it be cool to see the Hulk fight Doomsday too?
It would be the coolest.
That would be the best.
It would be the absolute coolest. Yes.
All right.
Love it.
What about you?
My characters are not necessarily on the same plane. They're a little bit, maybe say tier 2 characters, but I think they'd be pretty cool.
Okay.
For DC, we are drafting the Punisher.
All right.
Hey, interesting.
All right. Frank Castle comes to the squad.
I dig human relatable characters, and I think him and Batman would be a pretty solid team. His family was killed by the mob. If he crosses over to DC, they both have similar agendas. He's
He
a
and
former
Batman would
Marine.
be head to head.
Oh, they would fight all the time. It would be the dopest.
Time.
Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah.
And I would actually like to see Batman take a lick of his own medicine, And I think the Punisher.
That's a neat thing too, because they both had very similar backgrounds, but
Yes.
then they skewed off in totally different directions. I think that'll be a fascinating.
But
thing,
there's
yeah.
still both very likable qualities to both of them.
Excellent. And now who is DC losing?
DC is going to be losing a character that I think is so dope, but I think it'd be a really good. It'd be a really good fit with one of the ensemble casts, and that would be Jonah Hex.
That also was a contender for my worst film, but I didn't really see the whole thing, so I couldn't. I couldn't really talk about.
They had a
the beats.
Mastodon soundtrack too, so I feel like they get some bonus
That is
points for
pretty
that,
cool. Oh, I
right?
didn't know
That's
that.
rad. Yeah,
That is rad.
But the character is really cool. It's a guy that he was basically a Confederate soldier in the Civil War, and I'm a huge Civil War.
It's like Outlaw Josie Wales, right?
Yes.
Johnny Loquasto actually does see a Civil War reenactment, so you can see him
Yes, I do.
in Virginia.
I go to Gettysburg every Christmas. I really do, though. I walk around Gettysburg. My point is, though, Jonah Hex, just the character. He's a surly, honorary guy, but he's got a code of honor. And I just think that we have a Captain America Civil War coming out. How cool would it be to?
So would he come into present day Marvel, or would he exist with Two Gun Kid?
He
and,
would.
all that
He would come to
backstory?
present day Marvel still as Jonah Hex from the Civil War.
Interesting.
That'd be dope.
I dig it. All right, which one am I doing first?
Well, who do you want to bring onto the squad from Marvel?
From Marvel, we're taking Doctor Strange.
Oh,
And the reason we're taking Doctor Strange,
He's gonna be really upset that we just took his favorite.
the reason we're taking Doctor Strange is because Doctor Strange to me has always felt more like a DC character. We talked about all the mystical stuff.
You
up
talked
front.
about all the occult
Yeah.
in DC, and that's absolutely true. I
Also,
can totally see that.
there was one of Stan Lee's edicts when sort of he and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko were creating the Marvel Universe was Marvel heroes don't have capes. Because if you have a cape, you're godly and you're otherworldly. Whereas Marvel heroes were meant to have feet of clay and they're meant to be human. And man, Doctor Strange has the biggest cape.
It's a cloak.
He has a massive cape, right?
Yeah.
And he never, to me, really fit in with the Marvel Universe in the same way that I think if he went over and had some issues with Dr. Fate and the Phantom Stranger and all this stuff, that makes sense to me.
I love that. I love that call. So now, who are you giving up on DC?
Martian Manhunter.
Oh,
Martian Manhunter's going. He's switching sides.
That would fit Marvel quite well.
That's the thing. Like Martian Manhunter is of all the folks on the core 8 JLA members, he's the angstiest. He's the most. He's lost his. He's like a sadder Superman, right? Because he was older when he lost his entire planet.
Yeah, he lost
of
his whole
fellow
race,
Martians.
yeah.
He would fit in perfectly at Marvel.
That's great, and I could see him and Silver Surfer crossing over. Has that ever happened?
even more so than
Silver
the
Surfer
Flash
and
is a
Martian
great.
Manhunter?
The Flash is a great fit, but you're right. That's an even.
No, I love it. I think that's a great call. All right, do we have any more questions? We'll
We
get to a couple
got
more.
time for a couple more
How's the
questions.
turkey,
Adam.
guys? Are you on seconds yet? Thirds? Are you making those
The
late night
tryptophan kicking in.
sandwiches?
Are you passing out?
We usually like to play cards late at night in my house, and then we take everything and we put sandwiches that have everything
with the
on
dressing
one
on it. That's the
massive-
move.
I can't. That's always the best. Oh, I love this question. This is from YouTube, actually. Eric Slabby, S-L-A-B-Y. Eric Slaby.
Yeah.
Slaby.
If you could be any DC character, good or bad, who would you be?
Ooh.
Right?
Oh, did we not do this one before?
No, we talked about, we answered the question, is there any DC movie you would not be excited for? We did mention it last week. I have a new one.
Okay, a new one.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was easy for me to say Batman. I'm like, well, then I realized, I'm like, no, but anyone could say they want to be Batman. Especially after the video
I said
we
Superman.
showed. Right.
Yes.
My character that I would love to be, actually, I'd love to play this character. That seems like it's fun to play douchebags.
Yeah.
Booster Gold.
Booster Gold's a great. I could totally see you playing a Booster Gold.
Former pro athlete. He steals a bunch of stuff. He goes back in time to be like, oh yeah, I'm the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Loquasto as Booster Gold coming in 2018.
Right? There's a lot of room for campiness, but at the same time, you know, at some point in the movie, like he'll have to realize, oh wait, I better start taking this thing pretty seriously, and then he'll become the hero. That'd be fun.
Captain Marvel Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Yeah.
The blue outfit? Is this
blue
the
outfit?
blue outfit?
Blue with the yellow. Yeah, because here's the thing.
The little blue cheese?
Yeah, well, like the big red cheese, cheesy, kind of a goofball, kind of a real cornball. Like, you know, great physique, but you know, goofy. He's a child's conception of what a hero is. Captain Marvel Jr. though is like a preteen or a teenager's conception of what a hero is. So he's way cooler. Also, fun fact: Elvis, huge fan of Captain Marvel, modeled his pompadour after Captain Marvel Jr.
Really?
And that's why on all of his like
You're totally making up for loving Batman forever with
listen, man,
facts
I'm
like
bringing
that.
the knowledge.
I
I'm bringing the
love
knowledge. Also, like you know, Elvis's lightning TCB, taking care of business symbol. It's from Captain Marvel Jr. because he was such a big fan.
Shazam.
Yeah,
I'm all
awesome.
I'm all shook
Are you
up.
excited about Shazam coming out?
Yeah,
eventually?
of course I am. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you have an opinion? Do you think it's going to be in the DC universe, or do you think they're going to keep it separate?
I hope they keep it separate because
You hope they keep it separate.
yeah, absolutely, because like those comics haven't really worked.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh my
Why would I lie to you? Why would I lie?
All right.
Why would I lie? No, those comics haven't really been the same since they were like the really gonzo Fawcett ones, like back in the 50s. Yeah, with like the Talkie Tawny, the Talking Tigers, and all the Dr. Savannah and all that strange stuff. It hasn't really fit in with the DC universe since.
Yeah, because it really ultimately is just like another kind of Superman. They just take up the
It's
same
very
place.
different. Well, I mean,
It almost would have been great to trade to Marvel, but then you get another Captain
that was
Marvel,
my
right?
first thought
This
before
draft's
I got to Martian Manhunter.
This draft's getting out of control.
Clear it up.
You know what? We do have 2 more questions. Let's save them for next week because we always have questions coming in. We're already at 50 minutes, and it's Thanksgiving.
Excellent.
You got a lot of stuff to watch and do, and you got to talk to family, I guess. Have fun. But I think we're good for today.
All right, folks, thank
good.
you very much for joining us for this kind of special, kind of out of sync with our normal time. There was a little bit of wrestling talk. Hopefully you're enjoying the turkey. If you're not listening to it on Thanksgiving, you're listening to it after, you're remembering the turkey. I'm Adam Gertler. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Adam Gertler. And tell us where we can find you.
I'm Aubrey Sitterson at Aubrey Sitterson on Twitter. Go to aubreysitterson.com to find links.
How do you
to all
spell
the
that last name?
Sitterson. Sitterson. That's
right.
Aubrey Sitterson.com's got links to everything. Twitter, Tumblr,
Including
Instagram.
King Maul, and I've read the comic. It is badass.
That's
Go
right. He's got his
check it
own
out.
comic,
Thanks,
King
man.
Maul. Check it out.
King
Tell him
Maul.com.
how great it is because it is really cool.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Johnny?
Oh, yeah. I don't have a comic book. You can find me on Twitter at jquasto, jlocomedy.com, and of course, my partner and I, Dale Rutledge, we do a show on Nerdist every week, the Wrestling Compadres Slamcast at Wrestling Buds, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week, right? Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Christian Harloff, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.